Great stuff. Okay, I'm going to tee Helen up. The floor it's about to be hers. I just want to say that I also grew up in the West Country, spent my first 25 years there, and then sort of ran away to join the circus, and certainly had my fair share of insights into the challenges of being in business. And I think that's very much what this whole environment is about, is trying to help people get wherever they're trying to get in business. The format is basically Helen will do her talk, and then it should open up to a Q&A and discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Helen to do her thing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Niall, for inviting me. So I got a message on LinkedIn about 5 o'clock on Friday last week saying, do you fancy being our keynote speaker? Now I thought back for a little while. I thought, yeah, why not? Why not? For those of you that don't know me, I used to own, and I exited quite recently, a company called Redberry Recruitment. And the company was set up in 2007, and we were just a general high street agency. And the reason for the potted history, it will explain the learnings that I've had through the changes and the obstacles I've had in business, and hoping that some of these red flags that I ignored or didn't listen to or wasn't aware of, if you're currently in business, that you'll be aware to keep an eye out for them, or people that you know. So I set the company up in 2007. The first year was incredible, 500,000 in sales and made profit. We grew and grew and grew. Like, we were literally the agency of choice in Somerset. We were winning awards. I was winning business awards. I was winning Director of the Year awards. And we grew at a phenomenal rate. You know, we had, in the end, 4 branches across 3 in Somerset and 1 in Cardiff. And we literally were winning award after award for Business of the Year, marketing, you name it, we were winning them. I was also at that point sitting on boards myself. So I was not only running my own company, but I was also sitting on the LEP, the Institute of Directors, the Chamber of Commerce, and I was a NED, and I still am a NED, actually, a non-exec director for another company. So as the business is growing, the profile is getting bigger. I'm thinking, my God, this is amazing. You know, when everything was fantastic. But the thing is, if you start taking your eye off the ball, things start to change. So it was round about, so 2007 we set up, it's round about 2014, we were making a lot of money. We were making some good money, and I should have sold then. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. But I didn't, and I wanted to carry on. And it was around about 2015 that in my industry, the general high street recruitment market really started to see a decline. And it's interesting what Warren said about technology. And for us, one of the things in recruitment is how fast you can reply to people, how quickly you can match. And we were finding that, unfortunately, being a small agency with, you know, not the greatest IT systems, we were possibly losing out on certain things. We also found that with 4 offices, we had lots of overheads. And I had a £500,000 bills with wages, bonuses going out. And that's a lot of money. So I'm having to make £500,000 in profit before we were making any money. So, you know, it was quite a large, 4 million is still quite a good sized business. And I was the go-to. I was constantly the person, and I loved it. I loved my business, and Redberries always will be part of me, but I was the go-to. Helen will solve this. Helen will deal with that. And you don't always know the answers. So I found myself trying to be everything to everybody, but not always knowing what to do or where I was going to go. So I had advice. Like, we had a management accountant, we had an accountant, we had weekly, monthly meetings, but I know, and one of the learnings which I'll talk about later, is I didn't do things quick enough. So the flags were there when we see the decline in sales, the decline in profit. And in a non-arrogant way, because I'm not an arrogant person, I genuinely thought, I've grown a company from 0 to millions, we've made profit, we've won awards, I can turn this around. I can do this. I can deal with the challenges that we've got. We know we lost a couple of large clients because they closed themselves because of the industries that they are in. They were closed down. So that hit us quite hard a few years back. Technology was changing. And unfortunately, not everybody who's was in the boat rowing with me was rowing. They were quite happy to sit there and basically have other people row for them. So there was challenges with staff. And I think anyone that employs staff, you get them amazing people, and then you get the ones that are just bumbling along. And the bumbling along, when you need them to pitch in, isn't going to work. So again, decisions, looking back, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I should have made decisions to get rid of people quicker. So what I should have done, what I didn't, was condense an office and make redundancies, probably around about 2016, and I didn't. Why? Because I thought I could do it, I thought I could change it, and I didn't want to let my staff go because I really, really wanted them to, well, I didn't want to make redundancies. I was like, I'm an MD, like, you know, I'm like their mum in work, you know, and I've got to be responsible for them. So I didn't, and I was worried. And if anyone that knows me knows I'm a very proud person, and pride does come before a fall, believe it or not, so true. I was scared of what people would think of me. This businesswoman that had won like all of these accolades, this woman that people looked up to, had this amazing company. Why would she close an office? Why would she be making redundancies? And I genuinely was concerned what people would think. Again, learned so much through this journey now, because you have to sometimes be selfish in life, and I wasn't. I was very much thinking about other people. So in 2017, the figures started to decline even more, 2018, and we were now going, what to do? I have to say, the accountants that I had didn't, unfortunately, I don't feel, advise me in the correct way, because nobody pointed me in the direction of insolvency practice, or no one told me what I could do. So I was in my head figuring out, with a team around me that was looking for me for answers, what to do. Because you only know what you know, you only do what you do. And then at the end of 2018, HR Go, the company that I'm a consultant for now, contacted me out of the blue. Would you like to sell your company? I was like, do you know what? This is the lifeline. So, but at the same time, I was then also being courted by 2 global businesses and a payroll company. And the reason why I chose HR Go is because I sold 51% to retain some of my share within the company. And I felt that was the right thing to do. They had the technology. Now, I've been working from home since last year. I think if Redberry had been through the COVID time, I really don't think we would have survived at all. I think it would have been absolutely disastrous, because we've been able to, we, HR Go, have been able to implement things that I wouldn't or have known to implement. So in 2021, January, I sold the rest of my shares. So I'm now completely stress-free. I am no longer a director of Redberry. And I say it with a smile on my face, because on Sunday when I wrote this, I was actually a little bit emotional and choked up, because, you know, Redberry was my life. But what have I learned? I have learned so much. And I think these are the things that I want you guys to take away, or at least consider, talk to your friends, talk to people about, because I think in business, people are very good at putting on a show. Things are wonderful. Things are amazing. They're very good at saying you what you want to hear, but not really telling you the truth. And I was one of these people. I was going, oh, everything's fine. Yeah, everything's fine. Inside, thinking, how am I going to do it? How am I going to change this business? How am I going to turn it around from what was so strong? And all the money that we had in the bank, I'm paying people's salaries, but they weren't putting back in. They weren't going out and getting the business enough to put back in. And I'm sitting on 4 boards, took my eye off the ball. So I'll get back to that in a second. So I have learned, first of all, pride comes before a fall. I should have asked for help. Simple as that. I should have reached out to people and said, I'm struggling. I need somebody to advise me what to do. Because we had an amazing business. The brand, everything about it was incredible. I've learned even the most loyal staff will look after themselves. You know, you hear about create the right culture for people. You hear about, if you look after your staff, they will look after you. Yes, to a degree, until something happens that either is too much for them to deal with, or again, people look after themselves. We are selfish creatures. We're not really that altruistic. So it's in our interest to look after ourselves. So people that have been with me for 10 years weren't the most supportive, because they were scared. They obviously at that point they knew that the business was being sold, and it was what was in it for them. And I think the people that I should have got rid of sooner, I think the redundancy should have happened sooner. I think if I'd made decisions quicker, I could have cut the branch to save the tree. And I didn't, because again, I genuinely thought that I was doing the best that I could do in that situation. I've learned that giving too much power to one person, to maybe senior managers without knowing exactly what's going on, again, you still have to know what's happening. And I created a culture in my company of we were called Berries. We had this brand that everyone was bubbly, and it was they were like, hopefully like my personality comes across, very infectious and enthusiastic and very caring. And unfortunately, there's when people come into the business that don't always have that, even though you try and recruit obviously the right people, it can filter through. It can be like a poisoned apple, just it starts rotting everything, and you've got to switch it off. And that's hard to do because you have friendships with these people, or you don't always know what's going on. So I think just be careful of giving power to somebody and not always knowing what's going on. I've learned that wasting energy on negative things, I can't worry about certain things now, like all the stuff and the worries that's gone on in the past sort of 3 or 4 years. This has given me time to reflect, and this is the first time I've spoken about this because people know, I'm no longer a director of a company, and I'm actually in the best place I've ever been. So, you do come through it, things do change, and nothing is forever. And I'm doing what I love now because I love recruitment. But it has given me time to reflect and just try not to waste any energy on anything that's negative that's going on, because it's very, very tiring. I've learned that I was scared of failure, but actually failure is a good thing. And I know people are going, why do you want to fail? But for me, and I'll talk, there's 2 quotes at the end, and Vikram is on this call, actually gave me one of the quotes. You have to learn from stuff. Learning from your successes is great because you can replicate what you did well. But for me, and hopefully these things that I'm talking about, if any of these things are resonating in anyone, or you start seeing these things, you need to act fast, because I didn't. And the fear of failure, of me trying to think I could turn it around, was actually to my detriment. Now, looking back, I wish I'd looked at things differently. I've learned not to hold bitterness and grudges, because that's not a good thing. I've learned emotionally detach my head and my heart. Now, this is probably was the hardest thing. When I sold Red Berry, it was very, very emotional for me to do that part of it. When I sold in 2021, which is like a year and a half later, it was fine because I'd had 18 months to get used to the idea. But that's where the head and the heart comes in. It's a business decision. A business decision when you employ staff. It's a business decision when you make people redundant. It's a business decision when you discipline someone. And that is really difficult. And I think I have had to toughen up with how I now think about things. And I think you have to be a certain character to do certain things, which is why I have HR, obviously, hence why Ben's on here. Certain things I couldn't do. Now, if I was running a company again, I would go to somebody else and go, you're going to have to get rid of him because I can't do it. But you have to make those decisions quickly. And it is painful. It's, when I knew that I wanted this company, Red Berry, it was like, this is what I was meant to do. But nothing is forever. Sadly, some things are great when but some things don't last forever. But I've certainly learned you have to dig deep. And I think all of us here, in one way, whether you're running companies, whether you're in senior management, or whether you're coming up through the ladder, there's going to be challenges ahead. People see that spike of the iceberg and what the glamour and all of the success and the jewelry, the cars, the handbags. What they don't see is all the hard work that we as business owners put in and we do. And when things go tits up, we're the ones having to turn it around. So I've learned that being resilient, having that strength. And I think, again, dare I say it, sometimes as a businesswoman, we do have to dig in a little bit deeper, put that face on. We expect to be, like the smiley face of the company, or put in, praise other people when we're feeling down ourselves. So the resilience needed to get through is a lot. And I must admit, there were lots of very tearful nights when I was going through what I was going through, because it was a massive change for me, going from a businesswoman award-winning through to selling my company and then selling the rest of the company, because I had to. It had to happen. I've learned it's okay to be selfish, and this is where I completely get where my staff were in their mindset. They weren't asking me if I was okay. Not one person in my business asked me if I was okay. Not even the ones that have been with me for 10 years. Now I look back, and at the time I was like, that's horrible. Why I'm asking them if they're okay? But I know why, because they were looking after themselves. So hence, I think sometimes when you're running a company and you can see things not going right, if you're not passionate, if you're not loving what you do, you need to start looking at doing other things, because I think that passion that people have for what they do helps drive it. And I think when you start losing it, then unfortunately you obviously need to start changing, I think, what you're doing. I think not overstretching yourself. I sat on 4 boards. I was running a multi-million-pound company. And yes, I took my eye off the ball. And again, I've learned from it. But what I didn't do, I didn't put a bloody board into my own company. Like, I'm sitting on boards and I didn't bring in the expertise that would have helped me. I had an accountant and I had a management accountant, but they weren't challenging me. Now, there's a lot of people on here, as we've seen this now, that know me very well. I am quite independent, quite assertive person, and I need a strong person that can challenge me in the right way. And I think probably the biggest thing, not just making the decisions quickly and seeing those red flags, is you need people that are going to say, is this the right thing to do? Because my staff were like, yeah, Helen, that's fine. They might have thought it in their heads, and why they didn't challenge me was a shame, because I would have needed that. So get a board of advisors, whether that would be the financial aspect if you're lacking that, whether it's sales, marketing, HR, a business mentor, somebody that's in your same sector, to bounce ideas off, but a non-competitor, or somebody completely different that comes with a completely different set of eyes. Because I think for me, if I'd had that option, that would have been, again, possibly a game changer. I don't know. But stretching myself and not taking my eye off the ball by sitting on too many boards myself really did make an impact. So because I love what I do now, I love recruitment. I'm in probably a better place, and I was talking initially to Niall before the call, probably than I've ever been. And that's taken me nearly 4 years, 2018 when it all started. And that's a journey, that's an emotional, dig deep, challenging thing to go through, and I know it is. But do you know what? You see a smiley Helen now. People who knew me would have known a couple of years ago that there were difficulties. But do you know what? I don't think I wouldn't change what I've done, but I would have changed how I acted. I would have changed the actions that I did. Setting up Red Berry was the best thing. What I have learned from now, I would implement again and change how I've done things. I think having the right advisors, as I said, get a business coach is always great. Not taking your eye off the ball, as I said. I think my kind heart, I think, unfortunately, I don't think I'm at times ruthless enough. I don't think you have to be a horrible person in business, but I think this is where the head and the heart has to be disconnected. And that is a very, very hard thing to do. I think when you're a sole trader, self-employed, you're just thinking about yourself, which is probably why at the moment, because I'm a sole consultant, it's easy for me not to get stressed, because I love what I do and it's just me. Whereas when you've got one person suddenly that you have to worry about, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, it changes the dynamics. And being a kind-hearted person means I'm my own worst enemy. And I think this is why you need to employ people, if you are employing staff, to make sure that they can give you that advice, and they probably are the good cop, bad cop scenario, because ultimately if you're too nice to people, they will walk all over you, and things don't always go according to plan. But I think regardless of what I did, how I did it, I know I did everything with utmost integrity. And I know I can hold my head up high and go, I achieved what a lot of people haven't achieved in their life, which I've set up a company, I grew it, we've won awards, I've got a great brand, and I can look myself in the mirror to all of my staff, knowing that I did everything I possibly could. Now, looking back, I probably would have done differently, but at that point in time, I genuinely thought I was doing the right thing, because I had no other advice. Nobody else told me there are options. Nobody suggested that I could have done this. But as the MD, I take full responsibility. The signs were there. And I chose to try and do something myself rather than do something or get advice from other people. So I want you to be honest with yourselves. I want you to think, if these are any alarm bells that are ringing now, is there people in your business that you've given too much slack and you hope they're going to change? Is there people in your business you've given too much power to? Is there people in your business that you feel that you've got a gap that you need to bring somebody in? Have you got a board? Does your company need a board of advisors? Do you still love what you do? or have you got any red flags at the moment that are giving you indication that things might be going a little bit wayward? Stop and think, because I had a very successful company that I could have sold, wasn't ready to sell at that point though, that I could have sold, and this would be a very different story. I would have been happily sitting on a beach sipping margaritas, but I'm not, and I'm okay about that, because I've learned so much and it's made me a very strong person. And to speak about this without the emotion, because Niall and I had a chat on Tuesday, and I know Rob's on here as well, we had a catch up wine on Monday night. I find talking about this I thought it was going to be quite hard, and I feel it's actually quite cathartic, because I think if one person can resonate with this, or if one person can talk to somebody else about my journey, then great. Because I think people are too good, as I said, at going, everything's wonderful. And unfortunately in business, we all know it's bloody hard, and you do need to change things, and it's yourself. Sometimes it's yourself holding things back. So I'm going to end with two quotes. One is from Vikram, who's on this call, who pops it on LinkedIn, and it says, "I have not failed. I have found 10,000 ways that don't work." And that was Edison. And the quote, funny enough, I actually put this quote on Instagram days before Niall contacted me, and it said, "Don't be ashamed of what you've been through. Be proud of what you've overcome." And I think that's how I want to end it, because, this isn't a woe is me. This isn't, oh my God, wasn't expecting that. I want you to all to go, do you know what? Hats off to you. It's a strength that's needed to be able to talk about this. But also, if people can learn from it, great. Because believe you me, I'm in a very good place at the moment. And I'm probably earning more money now than I did before. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you very much, Helen.
I'm open to questions.
I'm very glad you found it cathartic. That's a really, really good sign, and something I'm not surprised by that. Honestly, it's the effect it should have. I've certainly got some thoughts, but now the idea really is to open up to. You can make comments, but if you've got questions, if anyone's got a question for Helen, we've got time up to the hour now. Jane, would you like to throw something in?
Helen, thank you. That was incredibly, thank you for sharing all of that. Your honesty and your passion really came over, and to be able to talk about the challenges that you've had so that the rest of us can learn from it, I think is really generous. So thank you very much for doing that. Where I am at the moment, I am, although I have a company, it is just me, but a couple of years ago, I owned a company with employees, and I know exactly what you say, because as soon as you take that first employee, it's like a completely different mindset. You do want to look after them and ensure that you can afford to pay your staff each month. So it really does change that. But one question that I have for you is around building that network of advisors. So not really talking about building a board, but at the moment, I outsource for various help, but that can be hard sometimes because you don't always find the support you want, and sometimes you realize that the support isn't good. It's not good support. Like you said, your accountants didn't advise you, didn't tell you the things you needed to know. So having been through what you've been through, would you have any suggestions or advice as to how to build that network, that really, top class network around you?
It's funny. So I think actually since COVID, this type of thing, so peer space and other top level advisors are more accessible, because if you think about some of the really good ones, they could be in Manchester or London. They are in the southwest as well, but it's hard. You can't keep traveling to places. So I think having the opportunity to join something like this is incredible. Certainly with LinkedIn is just, obviously Vic's a LinkedIn guru, but LinkedIn is so powerful. Like what's brilliant, like Twitter has its place and all of that type of thing, but I think LinkedIn is amazing. And I think if you put it out to the public, can anyone help me, can anyone advise? I think nowadays we're all very much about supporting one another. Like people have a Facebook post, does anyone know a hairdresser? I know, don't ask, but does anyone know anyone that can help? And people do. So I think LinkedIn certainly, obviously, certainly like peer space here, but I think there's a lot more accessibility now because people can realise they can do this. Does that sort of answer a little bit?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jane.
You're welcome.
Helen, I don't know how long I've known you, Helen. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
I don't know how long I've known you. And it's you know, I always look at you and think, oh my God, what is she on? You know, but I do know whenever I meet up with you anywhere, I always think, oh, you always, you know, always come away smiling. But it's so true that you do then wonder, how is she managing to cover all of these? How is she managing to cover all of this? How is she managing to, you know, when you had all the offices, I used to think how she must have a really good team of senior staff to be able to do this, because otherwise how can she possibly be doing it? And obviously, like you said, people don't realise quite often what it's like in the background.
And there have been, I've had some amazing staff, you know, and I've had some not so amazing staff, but it's a multitude of things. It's a jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? It's not just one thing. It's a multitude of things that build up and build up and build up, you know, but you've got to see the signals first. And the first thing would have been done is you know, from a financial standpoint, would have been make redundancies, close an office. That would have saved us at the very start.
The problem with staff is it becomes a very personal thing.
There's an HR person, careful on here somewhere.
You know, the problem with it is, you know, it becomes a very personal thing. Unless you're a really big company, but particularly a smaller company, you know these people personally, you know everything about them.
Agreed.
You form relationships with them, and they may be doing 50% of their job really well, but there's 50% they're not doing really well. And I always feel you don't want to give up on staff. It feels like you always look at it and you think, I can get them developed better. I can make them better. And it always feels like if you change staff, it feels like, you know, you've not done something right. And I think it's difficult to get out of that mindset sometimes.
But that's
they're
where
just
you
not
have
the right.
To, and I've learned from
they're just not the right fit. They're costing you money. Nothing
get the HR
personal.
in, get Ben in and get it sorted.
Yeah, it's so hard. It is so difficult because you're talking about people, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I mean. But that's the head and the heart thing. And this is what I'm saying. It's business.
Yeah.
And now I think I've changed a lot. Even my mum said, and my brother said, you know, I seem to be a lot stronger as an individual. Nothing would break me. I am a very resilient person. But you know, I did feel I was at a breaking point at one point because I was having to be smiley Helen. But now it's more natural and not forced.
Yeah. And I think building on what Caroline said, Helen, you know, yes, the people that work for you are people, but what you've just shared is that actually the people at the top of the organisation are also people. And I think we've seen a bit of that come through COVID, haven't we? Where kind of senior people are actually saying, do you know what, this is tough and I haven't got it all together. And actually showing that kind of vulnerability, but it's bloody lonely. It's, you know, doing the kind of role that you were doing. And I think being able to go, do you know, I need a bit of help here, can be that biggest step to kind of choose that you need to get some help. But yeah, I mean, so great to hear your kind of story and some of the truth behind it, because quite often we don't share that stuff.
No, and that's what I want to do. I just think that it's very easy for people to, as I said, just, you know, shine everything up and thinks everything's wonderful, and you know, unfortunately it's not always.
It's interesting about what you said, Jane and Helen. One of the lessons that took me a long time to learn was from my uncle, who was in the Navy over 30 years ago. And he said, a captain on the bridge is the loneliest job. And if you don't understand that, you will never become a captain. Now, I was a kid at the time, but as you know, I went up a greasy pole. You very, very quickly need to keep that in mind. Is you got to make the hard decisions, and you just got to kind of swallow whatever it is. And even the pride thing, the other lesson I was taught, and I've been really lucky to have great friends and family keep on pointing these things out to me, is it's great to have pride in yourself and what you do, but just check yourself when it turns into vanity.
Yeah.
And it's when it slips into vanity, that's when the trouble starts. And, what's the devil's favorite sin? Pride. It causes you to do all sorts of strange things. Anyway, I'll shut up now. That's how the people got things to say.
Warren, did you want to come in?
Yeah. Just wanted to ask Helen a question. It was great listening to you, Helen, and I'm going through a lot of that, what you described. So I've actually learned a lot from it. I just want to ask, when your sales got impacted, do you think that could have made a difference if the sales had continued, or do you think it was also a result of the frustration?
To be honest, the biggest challenge was the fact that the sales, so being in general high street market, we covered everything sort of from temp factories through to sort of middle management. And we were finding that a lot of the big agencies, like the global businesses, the national agencies, were slashing rates. So, a lot of the businesses that we had were like, well, this agency can do it for 20p, where our margins had to be 80p. So automatically we started losing business because of that. And then I think for some of the consultants, and again, I don't think recruitment is, and obviously Mark's on here, recruitment is and I'm sure most of your industries that you're on here are challenging. It is relentless. Like, it is very hard work. You're dealing with clients, you're dealing with candidates. Oh my God, it can be crazy. And yet people let you down. So you think you're going to make a placement, they drop out, they get counter offered. Somebody doesn't turn up for work. You're constantly battling to try and do, so, and I think, and at that point, 2015, the unemployment rate, it was so low, not just across the UK, but Somerset and the Southwest really struggled to find candidates. So it was a series of things. If the sales had been there, obviously, and the profit had been there, then I don't think we would have had an issue. But I would have still shut an office, but I would have had a bit more capital to do it and more time to do it. So as I said, it was the perfect storm. Literally, it's just lack of sales, lack of interest in some staff, too many overheads, Helen taking her eye off the ball, not making decisions quick enough. It was,
That's excellent.
I'm happy to chat with you, Warren, offline, if there's anything I can help you with on the recruitment stuff and chat.
I appreciate that. Yeah, with all the new starters.
No worries.
Thanks,
Mark, you have a question?
Yeah, Helen, I've got a question. I'm interested to hear, very interested, because you did a great job covering it up every time I saw you at chamber meetings. But your problem is unusual, really. Most people I know whose businesses start to decline and have staffing issues is that they get too good for the business and leave and go and start their own business. And I know many people that have had their own business, had teams of 4 or 5, and come back from 2 weeks holiday to 4 of them resigned because they've gone off to start their own business. So my question to you, and I don't know, I only know a little bit about recruiting in the Southwest. I've been down here 7 years. Were you a little bit, how can I put this diplomatically? What were your clear, defined goals when you were recruiting people? Did you play it a bit safe in terms of making sure they fitted the team rather than getting sort of out and out performers?
Okay, so when I first set up Redberry Recruitment, I was able to train, if they hadn't had recruitment experience, for me, it's about the will. So, you hear this will and the skill and everything. If they had the right personality and the right drive, and what I felt was the high customer service, because I didn't set up a company to provide shit service. I set up a company to provide the best recruitment service and the best customer service that they would get. So I would recruit that and I would train them. So this is why I think we did so well at the start. When it was just under me and 1 or 2 offices, I could mentor them. They were trained by me. So Jessie, who is probably my top performing consultant, is a mini me. And like, if it was just her and I in the office, like oh my God, we'd make so much money. And she actually went off to another agency, then came back to me, and then went off and she moved. And that's why I opened up in Cardiff. I opened Cardiff for her. But sometimes when you take staff on and they come with bad habits, that's hard. But to be honest, now it got to the point where I wasn't even in charge of the recruiting, because I was so busy doing other things. Like, you've got your marketing strategy, you've got your websites that you're looking at, and all the things that an MD does. that my HR person would recruit, and obviously the managers would look after it. And then I'd meet them and I'd be like, bloody hell. Like, what? Why have you recruited this person? Because it's almost a case of, oh, let's put a bum on a seat. Because if that person felt that they would just, because I think at the end of the day, they just wanted to fill it. And again, so the actual values and the culture, this is why it's really hard when a company grows to keep that when you've got more sites and more people. And that's why, you know, some businesses, you know, they've got the management thinks one thing, but the staff down here that, and there's so much gaps in between. I'm sure actually Robbie's on, who's on this. I think you're still here, Rob. Yeah, he's amazing at talking about people and culture, and you know, about values and things like that. Actually, Niall, there's a really good speaker there, and Rob.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll reach out to him
for your next one.
I mean, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, how many staff do you have at peak?
25.
Yeah. So I'm surprised that you weren't making the final decision on those recruits.
Well, I had an operations director, I had an HR manager. I didn't need to, because you know, a lot of MDs, you know, if they feel that they can trust their stuff, is what I'm saying. If you give sometimes too much power to people. So, you know, and again, it depends on, you know, if I was micromanaging, for me, that would be, why have I given autonomy and the an authorization to a director, or by title, not by shares, and managers, if for me to go meet them for, you know, say hello, and it wasn't always like that. Sometimes the staff are amazing, but recruitment is notorious, as you know, it's like a 75% staff churn, you know, like you're lucky to keep somebody for 18 months. So some of my staff that have been with me for 10 years, that was also a testament to what we were about. But, you know, you live and you learn.
Can I ask you a question about the emotions? Because it's fascinating that you said...
I'll take the coat off for this when I get a bit hot.
It's fascinating that you said that you were very driven to build the business. And it was like, felt like the thing you wanted to do with your life. And at the same time, you were talking about you mustn't be emotional when you're in business. And then the feeling that you feel now, cathartic, having sort of shared the story and got away from it. How do you kind of reconcile all of those different emotions? I find that fascinating in business anyway.
Okay. Okay. So I think I love recruitment. I think that hopefully that comes across when I talk about, well, I think I'm probably quite a passionate person anyway. It was very difficult, Niall, to be honest. Like, I am surprised that I have held it together, because when I did the practice talk on Sunday, when I wrote it, I was sobbing my heart out. And I said to my mum, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. She said, it's very raw, Helen. And actually, I think I missed it out in my notes, but it's like a bereavement. What I have gone through is like having 4 children that I will never talk to again, that I will never see, from all ages. So from Cardiff being my new baby through to a 14-year-old in obviously, or Shepton, obviously now part of HR Go, but you know, Bridgewater merged and Yeovil's been shut with the COVID, but having to sell that company, that was difficult, because you put your life and soul, like if you'd cut me, I would have bled from, obviously red, but Redberry, you know, it was me, like the brand was there. And that was probably the hardest thing, and that takes time. I think the only thing that, obviously, the pain that I've gone through, it takes time to heal. Of course it does. How I would feel if I was running a company now, could I do the whole head and heart thing? I don't know. I'd like to think that I learned from my mistakes in that side, but we are the way we are, aren't we? Some people are very black and white. Some people are very analytical. Some people are very creative, and you can't really change that. So could I ever be a little bit more head rather than heart? Who knows? But nothing, as I said, I can now do this and talk to you now. If you'd asked me last year, this wouldn't have happened. I would have cried, and that would have been not nice for anybody to see.
It's fascinating. When we did a peer space last year, someone said there's the 2 kinds of people in the group, like creative, emotional people and business serious people. And it's so true that we are all very different, and yet we're all in business in our own ways and trying to find our way.
I'm very much I like to think I'm very much an ideas, inspirational, motivational leader. What I'm crap at probably is people management, because you know, I'm like, oh, everyone's lovely. I think Paul had his hand up.
Is there one more question? Because we're coming up to the hour. I'm just going to share. I know some people might need to leave on the hour, so we'll take one more question. I'm just going to do one more share about the how to do after this event.
Cool, thank you. I'll be super quick. Thank you. I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Helen. I really appreciate your authenticity and vulnerability. after 21 years in business, I found myself just nodding wholeheartedly in agreement to everything you said. Being there and got the t-shirt for pretty much all of it except for selling the company. So thank you. I know we talk a lot about being authentic, and I think Seth said something to the effect of our team and our customers don't actually want our authentic self, they want our very best self. So it's awesome that you really shone a light on that in yourself, being your best self to everyone. And I really appreciate having this space where we can be our authentic selves too. So you just touched on something that I've been wondering about throughout. You shared the lessons that you can only learn, I think, by going through them. It's that pure wisdom stuff. And those are the lessons we need to have learned if we're to successfully run a business. And it made me realize that you're actually in the perfect position now to start a business. And I wondered if you ever would, and what that business might look like if you were to do that.
$1 million question. I would, yes. I think it's in me. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a lot of ideas. I'm very much about marketing, and I'm very creative, like PR marketing. Anyone that knows Bedberry would know that the stuff that was in my head and the brand that I created and how we were. So yes. I also love helping businesses. So I have a lot of calls with managing directors that, you know, or business owners, and I advise them as to what the type of people that we feel that could fit with a company. So maybe consultative work. I think I just need, for me at the moment, I just want to sort of regroup, just get my offerings. I think you need to have a good offering, don't you? And I just need to work out what that's going to be. But yeah, I definitely, the age that I am, I definitely want a second career. So yeah, definitely. But yeah, I just need to work out what it's going to be. Yeah, what people are going to want from me if I do. So.
Well, guys, it's 6 o'clock. That's our 60 minutes up. I really want to thank everyone for coming, and thanks very, very much, of course, to Helen for doing this. Actually, at quite short notice, we kind of agreed last week to do this, and it's been really, really fascinating to hear the story. And do come again next week. We do a kind of more of a connecting event, and then in 2 weeks we'll do another talk. But if you drop your email to me or on the chat, then I'll get you on the list. Otherwise, just follow us on LinkedIn, and everything gets shared there.
Yeah, and I am happy to offline chat to anybody if they've got any question, or if they just want a sounding board, like talking what Jane was saying about having mentors and stuff. If anybody wants to just pop me a message on LinkedIn, I'm happy to have a chat or a video call, because it is a lonely place. And sometimes when people advise, even if they've not been there themselves, they don't always get it. And I might not have the answers, but I'm always happy to chat.
And I don't share the chat, but you can save the chat. So if you want to save all the spiel that's gone in the chat, in the public part of the chat, then do that.
How do you do that?
You go to the little 3 dots in the corner, and there's a save chat thing. It'll save somewhere onto your desktop.
Okay.
So thank you very much, everyone, for coming along.
Thank you so much.
Nice meeting everyone. All the best, guys.
In touch with us, yeah.
Very good.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you, Helen.
Nice evening.
Thank you, Niall.
Cheers, bye-bye.
See you guys.